On today's show, the legendary best-selling author Tom Peters returns to the Thrive Time Show to teach you 29 powerful business principles that will change your game. The best-selling author of the legendary business book, In the Search of Excellence, Tom Peters is with us today, right here on the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download.
Get ready to enter the Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colin Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C&Z up on your radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll
Yes, 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 and yes! It is always ecstasy when Z is next to me, but today it is extra profound because I am above the ground. Z, congratulations, you're not dead.
I know. I was thinking about that earlier today. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was asking me how my business has been doing through all the chaos that's out there. And so we went through that, and I said, but above everything, I can hear your voice, and I'm pretty sure you're alive, and I'm alive, and that right there is really about all you need, right?
You know, Z, one of the things I have found is as the economy changes, as there's ups and downs, we've gone through 9/11, the scare of domestic terrorism. Paul, you remember this. We've gone through 9/11. We've gone through the Great Recession. We've been through so many things as a country. But there are certain timeless principles that always point to our true north in a capitalist society. There's a certain things. Some might consider these to be the Bible, the U.S. Constitution. Well, today's guest is a best-selling author of a book that blew my mind when I read the book. The book was called In Search of Excellence. Now, he's written other books that are mind-blowing as well, but In Search of Excellence was a book for me where I said, wow, that is the true north of entrepreneurship, of capitalism, of success. And even the title, In Search of Excellence. I mean, the customer looks for excellence in the marketplace. Tom Peters, welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I am just as fine as anybody can be in the middle of all that we're in the middle of, is the real answer to your question. Anybody who would say, wow, I'm doing great, I'd suggest you cut them off mid-sentence.
Now, where are you located right now? Where have you decided to office?
I am in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, which is 80 miles south of Boston, 10 or 12 miles from New Bedford, Massachusetts, which was the richest city in America a couple hundred years ago because it was the home of whale oil.
Wow.
Then it was the home of textiles, and now it's got its set of troubles and drug problems and so on, but it's a lovely place. So that's the answer to the question.
Now, if it's okay, I would like to get into a few topical things before we get into the number 27, the 27 number ones, this brilliant piece of literature you've been working on. How has COVID-19 chaos impacted your direct community where you live there, Tom?
I'm being silent because I would like to say something relatively intelligent. Well, I'm not exactly a young man. You referred to In Search of Excellence, and that was, after all, 38 years ago. Our community is hardly a retirement community, but what we have seen, which has been Boston has been really badly hit. You know, Boston, on a per capita basis, hangs in with anywhere. And so we have a lot of neighbors who have second homes here, and, in fact, they've come down from Boston. And even more fascinating is that large numbers of our neighbors' kids have come from all over, particularly from New York. But you name it, and so we've had a real mass exodus. And our next door neighbor has his daughter and her husband and their 2 little kids, and the daughter and her husband basically Zoom from not really even dawn to dusk, but from dawn to dawn, because she's in the healthcare business. And so we certainly have seen that. We've My wife and I went to a protest march yesterday in a little town near us. It was about as peaceful as it could possibly be, but it's everything is different. I had a bad tooth problem and ended up seeing an oral surgeon actually this time last week, Monday, a week ago. And as you can imagine, it was like entering a NASA space capsule. Everybody was, just absolutely positively covered with all sorts of things to keep them from, spreading the disease and so on. And I look like a shaggy dog, and tomorrow, to my great delight, for the first time in 4 months, I'm going to get a haircut. So that's about the best I can do in the way of an answer.
Okay, so amidst this chaos, though, you have decided to continue to be proactive, to continue to be purposeful, to be consistent, and you've been working on a new project. Tell the listeners about the new project that you've been working on.
Now, which one are you referring to?
Well, you have go. I'll tell you. You tell us the major focus that you are working on right now.
The answer is several-fold.
Okay.
I had a book called The Excellence Dividend, which came out in 2018, and it was the first book that I had done in 10 years. And not to my surprise, it was just simply interesting. I have written 18 books and been on 18 book tours. And this was the first book tour that consisted of basically 25 podcasts.
Wow.
And most of them went reasonably well. And I would hope that I'm not the most arrogant person in the world, but I do have things to say that people have paid attention to. And so I asked my colleague, who does all of my business management, I said, I just can't sit home on my ass while this is going. I can sit home, but not on my ass. And I said, let's go back and talk to those 25 people, and let's search around, and let's see if I can get my message as translated to this time to as wide an audience as possible. And so I did that, and at the same time I was actually writing a book, which I intend to be my last book. But I haven't tried to keep busy. That kind of seems like a BS idea to me. I have got some things that I care about, and I'm working on them.
Well, you put together this document called the 27 Number Ones. Can you explain what the 27 Number Ones is?
Well, it's an effort to go back over everything that I've done and pick out a bunch of ideas, and I had no more idea whether it would be 3 or 333, and in incredibly brief form, and I'm famous or infamous for long books, to point out the stuff that I thought was important. And so I ended up with a list that keeps changing. It's now 29 ideas. I call them number ones.
Okay.
And
29.
All I mean by number one is I refuse to number them 1 through 29 and say this is more important than that. They're just 29 things that, in simple language, I think are probably know. I started out, for example, which surprises a lot of people, with training.
What I'm going to do,
or as I put it, training.
What I'm going to do, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to get into training, but we're going to see, we are in a world right now where the media cycle's fast. It's coming in fast. And Tom, you are sort of a wizard of business knowledge. So what I'm going to do is I am going to tee up one of these number one principles. I'm going to tee it up.
Tee it up.
And then you tell us what it means and why it matters, and then I'm going to have Z or Paul argue with you about it or talk to you about it. So we're going to go fast. We're going. It's like a speed. It's, you know what I mean? It's like a speed
it's like
game.
Speed dating, but we're not really good at date.
All right. We'll do speed dating on those 27. That's fine with me.
And we have Charles, a young aspiring rapper here who is a phenomenal talent. And Charles, please feel free to argue with the best-selling author Tom Peters whenever you feel the need. Okay, so here we go. So number one.
Let me just make it entirely
clear.
clear.
Yeah.
I would much rather be a rapper than a business author.
Well, who wouldn't?
Heck yeah.
I'm not an idiot. It's. I think it's great. Was that your stuff that we were using?
Oh yeah.
Hearing on the intro?
The intro was me, but on the outro,
No,
a lot of
that
times
music. That wasn't you.
That was
didn't sing
me.
The whole thing.
No,
That
he
was
didn't
me.
sing it all.
Sorry for the
Did you have? Don't
Colton
you have,
Dixon.
Anyway, point is that I thought it was absolutely fabulous.
Oh, well, I
It
appreciate
wasn't
that.
quite at the level of Hamilton, but just a little inch or two short.
Tom, before we start this rapid fire kind of speed dating, my mind's being blown.
Blown.
You said you didn't sit on your ass when you were home. What did you sit on?
Oh,
did you,
Shaka-baba. That's
how
some
did
good
you-
training right there.
Would you just kneel?
That's some good training.
Did you?
I kneeled.
Well, that explains
the
it. That
problems
explains
we
it.
were going to have.
That explains it.
So okay. Before you guys give me your stuff, here's my question for you.
Sure.
Ooh.
Who's going to give Kaepernick a job? And will Roger Goodall get down on his knee and beg forgiveness from Kaepernick? I'm a
Then
San
the
Francisco
second part.
49ers
The second
fan.
part is not only a no, but a hell no. And the first part is, in my opinion, if he was going to get a job, he'd already had a job. So
Hey,
at this point,
real quick. Let me cue up Get Down on It while we just kind of
no.
with this.
okay, now we're getting. Oh yeah.
All right, so as we're
Roger
thinking
Goodell, here we
about,
go.
is he going to get down
Okay,
on
Clay,
it?
you're Roger Goodell. I come up to you and I say, hey,
Yeah.
hey,
Oh,
Commish,
Yep.
how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
All right, hey, we got
And
a
Goodell?
suggestion.
I'm going to Goodell?
Yeah, you're Goodell.
Oh, here we go.
You're the Commish.
Yeah.
All right, what do you think? How about you get down on those knees?
Screw yourself.
Okay, well,
All
let's
right.
put it a different way. Why don't you
yeah.
lower your height a little bit by not sitting on your ass?
No. But I'm going to have Candace Owens will now be the press secretary
Uh-huh.
for the NFL, and she
Down
can talk to you about
those
it.
knees.
Oh.
Pulling all the punches.
There
Come
we
on.
go.
Now, but again, it's a free
But,
country. We'll
now,
see what happens.
Nobody should criticize Roger because Roger has to get by on $40 million a year.
It's hard.
And that's
It's
not-
tough.
What's the Raj Mahal?
tough.
The
You
Raj
saw his man cave. If I made
It's
$40
a
million a year, it would have been a little sexier.
The Raj Mahal, you can't afford to have a big dome like the size of Jimmy Johnson unless you're making billions. And poor Roger, he's only making millions and millions.
I know, it's sad.
Absolutely.
I have a tear.
By the way, and you guys probably know this more than me, is the Patriots, there is a bit of talk about Kaepernick and the Patriots,
no.
which would be fascinating.
Oh,
Come on
man.
now. I promise you, Belichick won't kneel in front of him either. I promise you that. Come on now.
Well, yeah, okay. So now here we go.
I mean, you might loan him a hoodie, but I don't think.
So here we go. Training.
Okay, here we go.
It's as rapid fire as possible, Tom. Training. Where do people get it wrong as it relates to training?
Basically, people see it as an expense rather than an investment. And I've spent 40 years saying that you win. We were talking football 30 seconds ago. In a car dealership, the people who work for that dealership are as important to that dealership as the 53 players on the active duty roster are to the New England Patriots or San Francisco 49ers. And that's a long-winded way of saying people. I mean, it makes no goddamn sense to me. If you're in the fire department, if you're running a nuclear power plant, if you're running a football team, if you're running an archery team, what do? You train. Why isn't that obvious to a car dealer? Why isn't that obvious to a restaurant owner? I just am absolutely befuddled by that. But they look at it as an expense, and then that all-time one-line stupid remark: "If you train them, they'll leave." Richard Branson, the crazy entrepreneur, said, "Train them well enough so that they can leave. Treat them well enough so that they won't leave."
Amen.
Hey,
Wow.
real quick,
Powerful.
I have audio, Tom. This is the day that I was asked. It was a day, Paul, where I reached out to a friend of mine who has a nuclear facility, and I said, "Dear friend, can I run it one day?" And he said, "Sure." And I said, and he says, "Do you want me to train you first how to run it?" And I said, "No."
Who needs training?
We hadn't read any of Tom Peters' stuff here. We hadn't done it yet. So this is me. This is my first day running a nuclear facility. And this is the audio.
Oh, you have it recorded?
I'm
Yeah,
glad
this
I
is
was on
audio.
the other side of the world, or at least I hope I was.
Let me cue this up here. Let me just. Here we go.
We gotta find out which cell this princess of yours is in.
It was weird. We had a princess there. It was weird. We had a princess in the nuclear.
Is that what you called the actual
Here
core?
we go. This is me. This is my line. This is me talking. Here we go.
Everything's under control. Situation normal.
What happened?
Had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
We're sending a squad up.
Negative. We have a reactor leak here now. Give us a few minutes to lock it down. Large leak, very dangerous.
Who is this? What's your operating number?
It sounds familiar.
Boring conversation anyway.
Luke was my shadow that day.
Oh yeah.
So
you always have a
training-
shadow. Yes.
It turns out training is important. Training is
But
important.
let's stick with the nuclear power plant for
Okay,
just
sure.
1 second, because it's a story about a lot of things going on in business right now. When Chernobyl went to hell, there were a million reasons, but near the top of the list is they depended on the technology to take care of everything, and when stuff went wacko, people had no clue as to what the hell to do. And you can spend $1 jillion on technology, but at the end of the day, when something really weird happens, it's going to be human beings who've learned to work together. I mean, anyway, I could go on forever on that topic.
Well, let me say this. This is really funny. This had happened 3 days ago. And I say funny. This is like Paul, you know how when something terrible happens, you might say, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So if you have like a family member you're talking to and they tell you that they are thinking about signing up to go to camp, and you say, what camp? And they say, I'm going to an Al-Qaeda training camp. That kind of conversation.
That's
You usually
little
follow it
giggle,
like, you'll
little
say,
nervous
that's
giggle.
interesting.
Yeah.
This is an interesting article here. This is from the Dallas Morning News. The headline says, some coronavirus tests in doubt in Texas after a lab turns up abnormal number of positives. The lab has tested 14,000 Texans, and upon further review, to Tom's point, nobody really knew what created a positive test result. And so some people who thought, man, it's unusual how many people are getting COVID-19 at this lab, this one laboratory. It's almost like everybody who takes a test has it.
That is weird.
Perhaps we should retest them with something else. We'll just look at it objectively. Let's test again and see. And they found out that these people didn't have it, but they thought they did, but no one knew how the tests work. And now they're anyway. So again, I agree with you. Whenever you blindly trust technology, bad things can happen. Now, Tom, let's talk about this powerful principle here, which is not the second most important. This is just the one that it's happened to be number 2 here, is a moral obligation. Prepare employees for a rocky future? What are you talking about, Tom? That sounds very negative.
When you hire somebody, and I'm talking about a 3-person business or a 300,000-person business, the answer is absolutely, positively, you're giving them a job, and that's a wonderful thing. But as far as I'm concerned, you are responsible for their development as a human being during the 30 days or 30 years that they work for you. You have an obligation to them. There's a guy by the name of John DeJulius who is a customer service training guy, and I remember the one-liner of his that I love: when I hire someone, that's when I go to work for them. And that's there was this fellow by the name of Robert Greenleaf, and he wrote a wonderful book, and there's actually an institute and so on, and it's called Servant Leadership. And what I've said is, what is an organization? It is people serving people serving people. It is people called leaders serving their employees, who are in turn serving their customers. But it's and all of this gets multiplied by 1,000 given the technology change, and forget about that. All of it gets multiplied by 1,000,000 during a time like the COVID-19 problem. You've got I said to somebody, for God's sakes, if you've got 7 people on your payroll, if your demand has gone to hell, mortgage your house to help those 7 people get through the crisis if you have to. Leadership is an obligation. It is not a bloody gift.
I have another argument, but a thought I would like to have you entertain here, Tom, because I think we're on the same page with this, but I just want to ask you this. The Paycheck Protection Program? Paul, you know about this?
PPP.
Paul, will you explain what the Paycheck Protection Program is, just for listeners out there that don't know what that is?
Sure. That's where the government allowed us to see what our average payroll was, give us 2.5 months of it, to help keep our employees on the payroll.
And I had to use at least 75% of it to cover. It has to go towards payroll or your expenses, and then they've lowered the number since then. But here's what my wife says. My wife says this. She says, we're going to use 100% of it for the people. And I go, okay. And I can tell you, I wasn't necessarily in agreement of using 100% of it, but she suggested the idea. So, it's we talked about it. We prayed about it. I made the decision. Anyway, long story short, Z, there's somebody, shockingly, I'm sure you've never seen this, Z, somebody, shockingly, on the team, not everybody, but some people on the team, not everybody. Now, Charles, you work at Elephant in the Room. You did not do this. No, but there were some people that did this. Did you hear about what happened?
Yes.
And what did you hear that happened on Facebook with some of the people? Not all the people, not the majority of the employees, but what happened with some of the employees?
I just heard that some of them were complaining that they didn't get their checks or whatever.
Oh, yeah. So they go on that line. They go on Facebook there, Tom, and they write, I didn't get my PPP, my Paycheck Protection Funding, because my boss has taken the money. And I've heard he's using that money to buy a house.
Oh, wow.
Now, one is I have an accountant. I use CCK. They audit where the money goes. But I made sure that Amelia, who she processes our payroll, she made sure that she took little screenshots of where the money went. And then Daisy also saw it, and my wife did. So there's 3 people. So they kindly wrote on Facebook, no, they didn't. And by the way, all of the money has been used to pay you. And in addition to them keeping you on payroll, they actually paid you more money than you would have made because they thought your spouse might have lost their job. So Vanessa Clark paid you more than you should have been paid. So my point, Tom, I'd like to bring this up, is I do believe in servant leadership, but I refuse to serve an asshole. So that would be my take.
Well, my comeback to that?
Sure.
You should have never hired the asshole.
Oh, there it is.
It's so obvious in the interview.
I love
so
Tom.
honest. Always so honest in the interview.
So here's
you're right. I mean, hire fast, fire fast.
There's a guy who I quote in my last book, and he runs a biotech company, which of course is about the most sophisticated intellectual thing known to humankind.
Yep.
And he said, we only hire nice people. He said, let's take some very sexy degree area, some molecular biology stuff that none of us really understand. He said, basically, guess what? There are a lot of people who have those degrees. Don't hire.
I agree with what you said. I agree with that.
It's so easy to get. Well, let me give you an example. I'm going to get this wrong. One of my good friends, unfortunately, passed away. Back to football was the 49ers coach Bill Walsh. And when there was all the Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf stuff, I said to Walsh one time, I said, how in the hell, I said, you guys are in the people selection business. How in the hell could you make a mistake about, taking Leaf instead of taking Peyton Manning? And Walsh said to me, he said, these guys get conned. They're interested in what the 40-yard speed is. They're interested in how many yards that you can throw the football.
Yep.
What they ought to be interested in is the kind of Bo Schembechler, who was the legendary University of Michigan football coach, said, we only hire good people. And he said, over the decades, my little good guys outperformed the quote-unquote stars year in and year out. And I think that's really very much at the heart of the matter.
Tom, this is Paul Hood.
So you go for good people. You know what the hell a good person is. And in the case of this biotech company, it's even more extreme than that. I'm the CEO, and you're the guy who graduated from MIT with a 4.7 grade point average, and I fall in love with you as a genius. But after you and I have our interview, I have to do what the CEO calls run the gauntlet. I've got to interview 15 people. Can be the guy who cleans the place, can be the secretary, can be the receptionist, can be the junior clerk in finance. Yep. And any one of those 15 people can, in fact, give me a black ball and I don't get hired.
Sure. Hey, Tom, this is Paul Hood, the Hood CPAs. Maybe to tie both of those first 2 points together is we try to teach clients, and even though we're in a wisdom-based business, so there's certain levels of my firm that we have to have somebody with a certain level of wisdom that maybe we didn't train, but they have to continue the training.
No jackassery allowed.
Yeah. Okay. But we preach internally and externally to hire attitude versus aptitude. And the reason that works is we take jobs and we break them into tasks. So, and my COO, if she hears this, is going to be mad at me, but so I can hire knuckleheads that know nothing but have a great attitude and have a desire, and we can teach them part of the process. And then as they grow and we train them, they learn another part of the process.
I thought you took it a little far when you hired Beavis and Butthead. I want to point that, but it showed your systems
Hey,
are that
Beavis
good.
has worked out great. Butthead, not so sure.
Not so much.
You advocated hiring Beavis and Butthead. I was a little worried.
No,
Continue.
I'm with you 100% on that.
And I've read the
am.
book.
We get conned by grade point averages. We get
Right.
conned by this and that. We get conned by the speed in the 40, and we should be focusing on what kind of a human being. And I just want to say, and I think you triggered it a minute ago on saying something else, is every leader should understand that the way she or he performs relative to their people during the last 2 months and during the next 2 months in the middle of this COVID thing is how they will be remembered as a human being. It's how did she or he behave when hit the fan? And these 4 months will be defining. There's a wonderful thing. David Brooks is a New York Times columnist, and he wrote a column a couple of years ago, and it was called Resume Virtues versus Eulogy Virtues. And the resume says he graduated from the University of Michigan with honors. He was promoted 3 times in the first 5 years. He has a net worth of X. Those are the resume virtues. The eulogy virtues are what people say about you at a funeral. He was a guy who really, really, really always went out of his way, even when he was busy, to give you a hand. You could not imagine the amount of time he spent with his kids, even when he was in the middle of a project that was a killer project. And that's the stuff. And what's going on right now is the determinant of those eulogy virtues.
Now, Tom, real quick here. Paul had a question for you, and I want to respect your time. Paul had a question for you. And Paul, as you prepare yourself psychologically to ask the great one, a great business question, I want to make sure we know. Dr. Z's going to hit you with a fireball next there, Tom, and then we've got Charles with the final question. But real quick, I have audio of it hitting the fan. Z, he said, when the stuff hit the fan.
Oh, yeah.
This is how you're going to be remembered. How do you respond to these tough times? This is audio of me reacting to it hitting the fan. This is me.
La 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 Lou.
I'm talking into the fan. This was me.
That was you?
I'm talking into the fan. It hit the fan.
It
I
hit the
got
fan.
close, and I just thought I would try. I've always wanted to sound like Darth Vader by talking into a fan. So
You were close.
yeah, back to you,
Job
Paul.
well done.
It looks like you came pretty close.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was.
Or sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, and I've read the book. I'll be honest with you. I read the book, Servant Leadership, and the first time through it, and it just hit me. Well, who wants me to coddle these people? But when you wrap it together, and I want to have you give us your opinion on this. When you wrap it together, because I believe that you give people an opportunity, you love them, and sometimes that love means you send them packing.
Oh,
Because if you enable them to do a horrible job,
so if we
underperform,
if we made a bad hire, you're
Yeah.
saying remove them.
they got to go.
Okay, got it.
And so, when I first read through that book, and I'd like for you to enlighten me if you have a different opinion or whatever, is I felt like that he wanted me to coddle people and just, more of an entitlement type deal. But the more I've learned.
You can stop rubbing my feet now, Paul, by the way.
have
Thank you.
no
Go ahead.
difficulty understanding that as an interpretation, but that's not the way it came across to me.
Right.
I mean, I certainly agree with you that there are people who just don't work out and they have to be let go, but there are ways to let go of people, and there are other ways to let go of people. Assuming that there wasn't some, horrible crime or something like that, and that is it's not quite. It's letting go, and it's not letting go for incompetence, but it just brings to mind a story. There's a company I work with, and the woman is the CEO, and they are shockingly profitable and shockingly growth oriented. And during the 2000 and they just really take care of their people. And during the 2006-07 crash, she had to lay off about 20% of the workforce. And I remember hearing the story. They said Christine was so devastated by having to let people go that at the end of the exit interview, usually She was they were crying, and they were saying to Christine, "It's okay. I'm going to be all right." There's nothing soft about caring for people. It's just, that is absolute, total ton of crap.
Now, okay, Z, we talked about servant leadership. Are you? Can I stop rubbing your feet for a moment? Can I stop?
No, you can't. Because, see,
I'm trying to.
A real servant leader is a servant leader to the servant leader to the servant leader.
Okay, I'll keep rubbing your feet as you ask Tom the next question, please. What's your next question for Tom?
Be careful with my toe. That you got that ingrown nail there.
I'm a toe popper. Do you mind if I pop a toe?
I tell you all the time that hurts. I'm not into that. Stop it.
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, Tom. First, I have a comment, then a question. I have totally been missing the mark. I have not once, and I've been in business almost 30 years. I have not once timed any of my doctors in the 40-yard dash. Not once.
Oh, you better pick it up.
I know.
Hey, all ours. Tom,
I'm going to change my whole interview process. Mark off 40 yards outside the office.
Make sure they stretch.
Let them take off. Yeah.
Make sure they
Hydrate.
stretch.
Hey, I have audio.
Now
This was,
okay, go ahead.
Sorry. I had audio. This was earlier today when we were getting mic checked here. Z and I were get here early, getting all mic checked.
Mic checked out.
And this is audio of Dr. Z interacting with some of the employees. Let me cue up the audio. This is you. This is how great of a leader you are. Let me cue this. I'm sorry.
I really like you a lot.
I like you too.
I can't stop thinking about you.
I can't stop thinking about you.
Please, let me touch your feet.
See, I just thought that was a little over the line.
Well,
okay.
Servant leadership, that's what I'm about. Okay, so,
okay.
Tom, if I had to boil it down, if you had to say, if you talked to a lot of businessmen, you've seen a lot of businesses, you've pulled back the curtain.
Pull back the curtain.
Pull back the curtain.
Shaka.
Overall, what would be your, if you had to, if I paint you in a corner, I've painted you in the corner now.
Here we go.
If you had to say what's the number one thing you see business owners doing wrong today, what would you, just from the hip, what would be like the number one? I know you have a bunch of them, but like one of the top ones, like this one is, this one really gets me upset.
I would stick with just what I said before. They don't put the effort into developing people that they ought to.
I agree.
And the thing that is incredibly important for everybody to understand is there is nothing soft about taking care of people. It is the best way known to humankind to make money and make customers happy. As this Julius guy who I quoted before said, he said, your customers will never be any happier than your employees. And I think that's right on the money.
Well, okay, now we have a great member of the Elephant in the Room team. Charles, aspiring rapper. Again, if people want to learn about your rap music, Charles, how do they do that?
You can find me on Instagram, the number 1 and only YK. The number 1 and only YK on Instagram.
And I'll add your music to the end of today's show too, so that way we can hear some of your hot stuff here. What question do you have for the great one, Tom Peters, on today's show?
Okay, Mr. Tom. From a rapper standpoint, now I hear your business model of hiring nice people, etc. But from a rapper standpoint, if I wanted to hire a manager, producer, etc., do I still hire nice people, or am I going with the talented people? Does the business model still stand, or how am I going about that? And Clay, maybe you can give me some insight as well.
Well, the answer is, and I think Clay said it actually earlier. There are a lot of talented people out there. Hire the nice ones.
Okay.
Don't hire the.
Yeah. Well,
The problem is it's practical. You are gonna be, okay. So you hire an agent. The agent has this incredibly talented record for getting things done, but he pisses off every living human being he comes in contact with. You can have a great 6 months, you can have a great 2 years, but you ain't going to have a great decade with somebody like that.
Ooh, okay, I hear you on that.
I would say,
you can be in a tough, for God's sakes, Walsh was my next door neighbor. Bill Walsh took a team that he inherited with a 2-14 record and went on to have a 10-year record before he retired of 100 wins, 40 losses, 3 Super Bowls, and so on. He could be tough as nails when he had to, but the players knew that he would literally die for them. I remember there's a wonderful, wonderful Lombardi line, and think about this one. Lombardi said, you do not have to like your players, but you must love them.
That's
really,
good.
as human beings, get them in a very deep-seated way. They can piss you off from time to time, but you really got to care. And I really will go to my grave saying it is the best way to succeed on the bottom line in business.
And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom! Stop what you're doing and think about this for a second. What would happen if your company was suddenly able to generate exponentially more quality sales leads? That would be incredible. What would happen if your company came up at the top or near the top of the Google search engine results? Well, I would just feel overwhelmed with all that business. How many thousands of dollars in lost sales or millions of dollars in lost sales are you missing out on simply because your potential customers can't find you when they go online to search for the products and services that you offer? I refuse to think that thought because I don't want any more business. Unless you are a dirty communist that hates money, my new book, Search Engine Domination, will help you grow your business. In my new book, Search Engine Domination, we will teach you the specific steps that you need to take to dominate the search engine results. What do you mean by dominate? You see, in my new book, Search Engine Domination, we will teach you the specific steps that you need to take to dominate search engine results. Download your free ebook copy today at thebestseobook.com. I repeat, that's thebestseobook.com.
My name is Amy Baltimore, and I am a CPA in Covington, Tennessee. I've been working with the Thrive team now for about a year. One of the first things that they did was to update my website and my search engine optimization. I prior had a website, but I was not being found on Google, and all of my new business was coming through referrals from friends, family, etc. And right away, I started to see results. People were calling and coming in saying that they found me on Google. They just Googled CPA near me, and there I was at the top of the page. And so it's been a great help to my business.
Again, you can download your free ebook copy today at thebestseobook.com.
Hey, this is Dustin Huff. I'm with Keystone Harbor Marina. We joined Thrive back in January and have been working with these guys for about 7 months. During that time period, we have moved up our Google rank through reviews and SEO processes that we've compiled through these guys. Our leads have gone from about 4 a week to now 165 a week. So the process works. I will tell you from experience, once you begin, you have to stay with it. As long as you continually do this week in and week out, month in and month out, you'll continually grow.
The system works, but nothing works unless you do. You've got to take some action. Download the ebook for free today at thebestseobook.com.
Hello, my name is Daniel with Daniel's Heating and Air here in Amarillo, Texas. The way Google has affected my business, we have got a lot of calls from Google. Right now it's July, and we've had the best month ever. And it took us about 8 to 10 months to get on top of Google, and I'm glad we did.
Remember, nothing works unless you do. You have to go to thebestseobook.com today. Download the ebook for free. Just download that ebook for free, and you'll be off to the races.
Hi, my name is Christina Nemus. I'm the owner and operator of Angel's Touch Auto Body and Detailing in Bourne, Massachusetts. We have been working with Thrive and their coaching for, say, 8 to 9 months, and it took us about 6 months, 5 to 6 months to get on the top of Google, and with their help with the website and marketing, and the SEO and retargeting ads with Google, and it has been phenomenal. We just have light and day business coming in, phone calls coming in, walk-ins, referrals. It's just through the roof, and we couldn't be happier. At the moment, we are up 50% this year from the previous year, and not only is that part of our own hard work and diligence, but also with the help of Thrive and what they've done for us and getting us on the top of Google and, you know, all their knowledge and coaching. And yeah, so super grateful, super pumped to see what the future holds for all of us. Thank you.
This is your year to thrive. Success you will find. Today is your day, and now is your time.
Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Proverbs 10:4. I'm here to tell you, you can do it if you can just motivate yourself. 12 the masses had to cut off a few, so on the daily you and I could rendezvous. A misshapen tree that I had to prune. I had to make cuts to be here daily at noon. So like a tidal wave of knowledge monsoon, I could rain on the parades of those who doubt in you. Are you the next Rockefeller or the next guru? Or the next Dr. King who's changing the rules? Walls are in your way, will you run right through? Like a running back, forth the one, it's up to you. I remember my days back in the dorm room, tuned to the gloom like the temple of doom. Overwhelmed with the doubts that try to consume my hope for the future that I could pursue. But from the mountaintop now I can conclude that you have what it takes if you want the view to.
This is your year to thrive. Success you will find. Today is your day, and now is your time. It's your year to thrive. Success you will find. Today is your day, and now is your time.
This moment is profound cause you're above the ground. Your road might have been rough, but what you got now is now. We're here to pick you up and to even show you how. But you gotta be resourceful with that old plow. Started from the bottom, but I worked my way up. Cause by 4 a.m. I've always been prayed up. Rise and grind as your time, don't dare let up. You gotta get it, don't quit it till your seeds grow up.
This is your year to thrive.
Come on.
Success you will find.
Yes.
Today is your day.
Somebody say.
And now is your time.
It's your time.
It's your year to thrive.
Come on.
Success you will find. Today is your day, and now is your time.
It's your time. We all have a wish and we all want to win, but we cannot begin without self-discipline. If you fall on your face, get yourself up again. Attach yourself to goals, not fail with the friends. When the storms get rough and they scatter and leave, you only be there with yourself and what you believe. We believe in you, but not as much as God does. If you're going through hell, he's got nothing but love. Apply what you learn, increase what you earn, and in due time you have money to burn.
Apply what you've learned, increase what you've earned, and in due time you got money to burn.
Sing it.
Apply what you've learned, increase what you've earned, in due time you got money to burn.
Sing it.
Apply what you've learned,
Sing it.
increase what you've earned,
Yes.
in due time you got money to
With this miracle, I look to shout down the doubters. Kill the weeds that be killing your dream flowers. Empower you to devour all the obstacles that make your sweet dreams sour. As for me, I used to stutter, but now I'm on the microphone smooth like butter. If I can do it, I know you can too, but you must stick to it like postage do. And while Merton's on the chorus, singing what he sings, I encourage you to dream big dreams.
Today is your day.
Today's your day.
And now is your time.
It's your time.
This is your year to thrive.
Sing it.
Success you will find. Today is your day.
It's your day.
And now is your time.
It's your time.
Today is your day.
Come on.
And now is your time.
Sing it, Martin.
Today is your day. Now is your time.
I realize I can't sing like that, but I can talk and play the woodblock. Okay. If you guys need me, I'll just be over here.